So this is my Craftsman 9 horsepower snowblower, and I have a surging issue when I use it. Now there's two major causes of surging. One is the carburetor, where the mixture may not be able to run lean. Maybe there's a vacuum leak, maybe there's a clogged jet. So the power decreases and the engine surges or hunts, seeks, oscillates, whatever term you want to use. The other cause could be the governor. The governor, of course, controls the maximum speed of the engine. As the engine goes faster, it slows it down, and as the engine slows down, it speeds it up. So how do you know which is which? Well, I clean my carburetor. I know it's clean, but if you hold the governor steady so it doesn't move, and that solves the problem, it's most likely the governor, because if it's a fuel issue, you should still get the surging if the governor's steady. So I went ahead and I held my governor steady and the surging was gone. So now I'm going to go ahead and attempt to fix the governor. How am I going to do that? Well, there's a spring that I'm going to show you that controls the tension against the governor. And if the spring isn't firm enough, then the governor's too sensitive. So when it wants to slow down, it slows down too much, and then it tries to compensate and it speeds up. And then when it speeds up, it wants to slow down, and you go back and forth. So if I increase the tension on the spring, my hope is that I will decrease the sensitivity of the governor, and it will hold the RPM at a much steadier state. Always save your screws someplace safe that you're not going to lose them. You can screw them back into the holes. Take this off. There's a little connection right here. Just unplug that. So here's the throttle mechanism. There's the arm that connects through two linkage cables to the throttle on the carburetor. And when I move the throttle up, it controls opening up, like I said, the carburetor to add more fuel. And this is the governor, which will throttle back on the carburetor. And there is a spring which is right here and here to help control and maintain the RPM. So that back and forth movement is where it's surging or oscillating, porpoising, whatever term you want to use. I'm going to replace the spring and tighten it up, and I think that will make this better. So I'm going to remove the spring. Just pop this up. Going to rotate it around. Pay attention to where it is. It's going into this hole here. And the spring comes out. I'm going to put a little more tension on this spring by just bending it back a little bit. So you can see the slight difference in the new and the old. And now we reassemble it, put it in the hole. Come around. So now that the spring tension is adjusted, we have to make sure that we're not going to over rev the engine. The RPM on a snowblower, from what I've read, should not really exceed 3,600 RPM by much. And this screw here is what is going to allow you to adjust the RPM here. So let's go and see if we've gotten rid of the surging. I have an RPM tachometer hooked up so we can see exactly where we're at. Let's give it a go. And you could see that this was not doing this motion anymore. So now I've gotten rid of the surging just by adjusting the tension on the spring here and then making sure that I set the screw here to make sure we're not maxing out much above 3,600 RPM. So surging can either be your carburetor, or in this case it was the tension on my spring was too low, that the governor was a little too sensitive, causing this surging motion. And now that's fixed.